and welcome to the first semi-final, or the first of two semi-finals running simultaneously here at Shell Harbour City Stadium. And the game we're bringing you here is the third versus fourth playoff. It's the Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League Finals. It's the Sydney Blues up against the Queensland Comets. My name is Brendan Parnell, and I'm joined here this morning by Campbell Fraser. Campbell, what can we expect today?
Look, I think we know this is going to be a hard game for the Comets. Obviously, they've come into this season with a lot of new players and players who are kind of coming up through the ranks. But we do have quite a few stars on the side of the Comets, so I'm kind of looking towards a good game here.
Right. As we see the two teams in their respective huddles, Sydney Blues in the grey uniform with the light blue numbers, and their head coach Troy Sachs giving some final instructions over there, and Nick Such, the head coach of the Queensland Comets, doing the same thing. Of course, the Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League, the first time we've seen a full home and away round since 2022. Prior to that, we had the COVID disruption. So it's been quite a labour of love, and as you'll see our three officials standing in front of the score table over there, they have the WBA logo on the back of their shirts. Wheelchair Basketball Australia, newly instituted, have taken over the management of the men's and women's leagues, and it's been quite a journey, Campbell, but proving a worthwhile one. We had the awards night last night, the annual awards, and the finals this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's been a really valuable thing, especially for the women coming up through the ranks. They don't have too many opportunities to get into things like the gliders and get kind of consistent practice. So this has been a really good thing for their training and their purposes.
You mentioned the gliders. For anybody who mightn't be aware, the gliders are the Australian national women's wheelchair basketball team. They unfortunately narrowly missed out on qualification for the upcoming Paris Paralympics after losing a last-ditch repechage game over in Japan earlier this year. But we will have the luxury of seeing no fewer than 7 of the Australian gliders squad playing today. Isabel Martin and Laura Divoli, 2 of the starters for the Queensland Comets, along with Maddie Kelton, Leanne Del Tosso and Sarah King. And for the Blues, they have no fewer than 5 of the gliders team. Jess Cronje, Georgia Munro-Cook, who's starting. Kylie Gauchi is also starting. Shelley Matheson starting, along with Tori Simpson. And Jess Pello, and we're underway. It's 3 versus 4. The winner to move on to play the loser of the 1-2 game later on today. First possession, Sydney Blues. And that's deflected away. Sarah King with the rebound for Queensland. She kicks ahead to youngster Laura Divoli. She pushes it inside. And the scoring's underway. Leanne Del Tosso there with the layup.
That's exactly what we want to see from the Comets. They've struggled a bit previously to get the ball up the court, but that's really good to see.
It's Kylie Gauchi with the quick push for the Blues, and they're able to answer. Georgia Munro-Cook, the prolific scorer. And the officials have determined that the inbounder actually rolled over the line there, so that will be a turnover. The ball to revert back to Sydney.
And Sydney starting with a very hard press already, bringing out a lot of pressure.
Munro-Cook cuts middle, gets the inbound pass and finishes. Backcourt pressure, hot already. Kylie Gauchi with that steal. The ball's deflected out of bounds. It will stay with Sydney.
Again, that pressure just getting a little bit too much for the Comets. They've really got to find their timing and slow it down a little bit here.
Munro-Cook with the ball, looks at the 3, and that's nothing but net.
Couldn't ask for much more coming into the finals, having a 3 this early in the game.
If you're seeing Georgia Munro-Cook for the first time, don't be surprised that she's made the first 3 shots. She was the joint leading scorer in the league at 36.4 points a game. There's the Blues again. Shelley Matheson with that layup. Comets managing to break the press this time. Tivoli, cut off by Vinci. Kicks it back to the middle. And that one falls. Sarah King.
That's exactly what we're looking for. As soon as they can break that press, if they can get it forward, they've got the scoring opportunities.
It's Vinci rolling the other way. Nice deflection there by Isabel Martin.
Really smart defense there, just to get a hand on the ball, just to block that shot, getting no fouls, playing very clean here.
Ball's in, Munro Cook. That mid-range shot is off, and it's going to roll out of bounds. Now, 3 officials today. Helen Rosenberg, the crew chief. At the far end of the court, Kenji Sato McFarlane and Matt Chow. Sarah King kicks it across to Leanne Del Tosso. She's cut off, spins around, goes back. Lovely mid-range shot.
I think it'll be valuable for the Comets to have that little bit of range, knowing that they don't necessarily have to get all the layups. But if they do have 1 or 2 outside shooters, because we know the side of the Blues do have quite strong defense.
Kylie Gauchi finds the ever-present Munro Cook. There's not really a direct matchup for Georgia Munro Cook amongst the Comets, is there?
No, they've really got to focus on keeping her out, because once she gets that inside position, they're not going to be able to stop her.
So Kylie Gauchi puts her hand up, committing that foul, a blocking foul. Some early substitution for the Blues. Pello onto the floor in 12. Sydney. Del Tosso looks at that mid-range shot. It's a little long. Georgia Munro Cook with the rebound. Kylie Gauchi cut off, back to Munro Cook. The layup just off for Marianne Latu. Laura Tivoli streaking the other way. She's cut off by Latu. The officials have detected a push.
Again, that defense on the side of the Blues being very suffocating.
Just the second team foul this quarter for both teams. Any foul after the fourth would result in automatic 2 free throws. Del Tosso scans the floor from the perimeter. Back to Tivoli. She makes use of the Martin screen. Martin rolling beautifully after screening. Managed to get the offensive rebound, but unable to make it go. The Blues are off and running again.
Those points are going to become very valuable, those second chance points.
Munro Cook fouled in the act of shooting there by Del Tosso. A desperate hand up. The refs have found some contact. That'll result in 2 free throws. It's Jess Cronje comes onto the floor in number 5 for the Blues. Georgia Munro Cook a little long with that one. But it's good with the second. It's the Sydney Blues 12, the Queensland Comets 6. Just 4 minutes gone, first quarter of this 3 versus 4 semi-final, the Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League. That pass from Del Tosso a little too strong. Just a slight delay in play there.
For anyone that's not too experienced with the sport, this does happen pretty often. Players coming out of their chairs.
Sarah King out of her chair there. Gets a hand. up and ready to go. And the officials will stop the game, Campbell, if there's a potential risk or the play is heading towards the player.
If the play moves past the player, then they'll consider it moving on until the play stops. But if the player is in danger, then obviously they will stop.
As that shot from the Blues is off, Davoli the rebound to Del Tosso. She's streaking down the floor, finds Isabel Martin. Her layup rolls frustratingly off. Carly Gauci the rebound. Georgia Munro-Cook. Some really clever work by the Blues there to try and screen the transition defence out. Ball in the paint. Gauci with the drive, expertly drawing the contact. She's out of her chair temporarily. Comets coach Nick Such just querying whether there was a gap between the chairs there. Officials explaining what they had seen. So not too bad a start, Campbell.
Yeah.
It was a long season for the Queensland Comets. It's such a young group, but really they've looked okay in this early stages.
Yeah, I think they've got a lot to be proud of here and a lot to kind of keep moving on. A couple missed shots that maybe if they'd gone in they'd be a lot closer, but the fact that they're getting into those shooting positions against the defensive side of the Blues, very, very, very strong, and something could put them in a good position for these finals.
The backcourt pressure is going to be a constant issue, and we're 5 minutes into a 40-minute game at the moment, and the question may be whether Queensland can continue to be able to successfully release enough from that pressure to create scoring opportunities.
And whether the Blues can sustain that defense. I mean, it's hard work playing a full press, especially in wheelchair basketball. It's a difficult thing to put your players onto. So as much as it's difficult on the Comets to break it, it could put a lot of energy out of the Blues side.
And Campbell, for anybody who might be watching for the first time or is not completely familiar with the rules of wheelchair basketball, they'll notice the varying heights of the players in the chair. Can you explain a little bit about the points classification system and what the viewers are seeing?
Yeah, so every player gets a classification from 1 to 4.5, 4.5 being the highest level of mobility, 1 being the lowest, and you're allowed 14 points on the court at any time. So you get a combination of players who have higher mobility and tend to be your forwards, your shooters, and then lower point players who are your pickers, your sealers, and very strong defensive side.
You can probably hear at home plenty of contact between the chairs. Anybody might have thought this is a non-contact sport. Certainly not the case. Still, Tosso looks for the screen and roll. Martin was almost in the right spot. The pass just a little astray, the bounce pass.
And that's a really difficult pass to get right in that moment. You've got milliseconds to make that pass, and the communication just being a little bit off there.
Very narrow window. As Kylie Gauci brings the ball up for the Sydney Blues. Isabel Martin picks her up. Ball skips back and across to Munro-Cook. Del Tosso's there. Shots off. King the rebound. Del Tosso. Large backs, a screen in the backcourt from Isabel Martin. Frees up Del Tosso to Davoli. She makes the layup. Some really good transition offense there.
And credit to Laura Davoli. She's been very strong in this season. As much as the Comets have struggled a little bit, she's shown a lot of promise.
One of the youngest members of the Australian glider squad. That shot from Munro-Cook short. That's Davoli with the rebound in 33. She probes, wheels back around onto her left hand, back to her right. King down on the right block, back to Del Tosso. Davoli, shot clock running down. The long two is good.
I think if you're this Blues side, you don't want Laura Davoli to have the ball at the moment. She's not missing much.
That shot short. Del Tosso the rebound. Jess Cronje with that attempt. And real pressure defense from Kylie Gouch, who's forced the over and back violation. Once teams come into the front court, they cannot retreat to the back court.
It's one of the very difficult things in wheelchair basketball. You don't have the agility to step around defenders. Once they've cut your line, you have almost nowhere to go.
Gauci inbounds to Latu, ball back to Gauci. She looks around, finds Cronje, the long corner. She measures that one up. It's a little off again. Laura Divoli with the rebound. Probing down the floor. Del Tosso runs an arc across. The pass inside finds Maddie Kelton, who's fouled. Not sure if she was thinking shot or pass there, but the officials have determined it was before either of those actions. Kelton inbounds to Divoli, skip pass to Del Tosso. She fakes, and on the drive, banks it in.
I think the Comets putting up a lot of pressure here. The Blues not really responding.
Leanne Del Tosso with a wry smile there as she indiscriminately commits a foul in the backcourt. Yeah, just a 2-point game at the moment. Certainly not something we may have expected based on the regular season results. Sydney Blues 14, Queensland Comets 12. 2 minutes and 20 seconds remaining in this first quarter of the 3 versus 4 semi-final. Of the National Women's Wheelchair Basketball League.
Everything looking pretty confident for the Comets here.
Coming to you live from Shell Harbour City Stadium. The Blues can't find the range again. Divoli the rebound. Del Tosso was off to the races. Layup's good. A little bit of English on that to tie the game away.
Del Tosso, a very experienced player in this game, and she's very confident with those layups.
As Isabel Martin cuts Marianne Latu off, and she spills the ball out of bounds.
Blues just need to slow it down a bit, I think. They're getting a little bit ahead of themselves, and the pressure's getting to them.
Blues coach Troy Sachs takes a look at the scoreboard, rubs his eyes, sits calmly to try and ponder what next levers to pull. Del Tosso with the ball now. It's cut off. Adjusts her dribble again. Swings it back across. King back across to Divoli. That shot's long. It was hotly contested.
A rare miss from Divoli at this point. I think that could be a good sign for the Blues, thinking maybe they've put her off her game a little bit.
Now, the action we're seeing in the middle of the court there, Campbell, lots of denial, probably something that spectators wouldn't see as much in able-bodied basketball.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of pressure and just getting a little bit of contact in there, kind of muscling up to each other, kind of sizing each other up.
Marianne Latu drives baseline, an expert pass. Unfortunately, is unable to be finished. The rebound spills to Laura Divoli. That was Tori Simpson with that missed interior shot. Divoli's fouled.
Blues getting quite a few fouls at this point.
That's their 4th team foul. The next one and any subsequent fouls will put the Comets in the bonus. The bonus being 2 free throws for every foul that's committed. As Laura Divoli cuts middle, just completely unguarded. Del Tosso finds her. The Comets are in front.
Blues really need to put something on her, put a chair on her and stop that run.
Kylie Gauci streaking down the middle of the floor. Bounce pass a little hot for Lucinda Buetti. You look up and the Comets are away again. Isabel Martins thinks better of the layup, but she was cut off by Jess Cronje. Back to Del Tosso. She's scanning the floor. Back to Isabel Martin. She wheels around. Tricky pass, which Sarah King really never had vision of. And it sails out of bounds. Comets with some of their own backcourt pressure now. Kylie Gauchi shot the game clock running down. Kylie Gauchi does get a look, but it's short. And after one quarter, it's the Queensland Comets 16, Sydney Blues 14. Unpredictable indeed.
Yeah, I think the Comets playing very well here, getting a lot of their shots in, thanks to Laura DeVoley, obviously. The Blues just looking a little bit stressed out, maybe a little bit uncomfortable. Kylie Gauchi has 3 fouls at this point, 1 quarter into the game. Yeah, this could be a difficult game for the Blues if they don't kind of tighten up that defense a little bit.
We saw in the regular season matchups early in the year that the backcourt pressure of the Blues pretty much cracked the Comets open, being a relatively inexperienced side, and unleashed a torrent of offense and turnovers, but that hasn't been the case today.
Yeah, I think they've obviously come away from those games and kind of talked about it, gone through those games and looked at where we've got options. And I think they've found those options really clearly, and the Blues don't quite know how to respond, not necessarily expecting the Comets to have that press breaker.
Reminder, this is the first of 2 semi-finals. You might be able to hear some noise in the background. That's the 1v2 semi-final going on the other court here at Shell Harbour City Stadium. But this one, 3rd versus 4th. The Sydney Blues having finished 3rd during the regular season, and the Sporting Wheelies Queensland Comets having finished 4th. But that hasn't bothered them today as they hold a narrow lead heading into the second quarter. Of course, the league, the Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League, is brought to you by Wheelchair Basketball Australia and the wonderful people at the Beluga Foundation. Campbell, we saw the awards last night, the annual awards dinner, which was held to celebrate the achievements of the outstanding players in the men's and women's league. Highlights for you?
I think Georgia Monroe-Cook getting in the All-Star 5. Oh, sorry, the highest scoring.
Highest scorer, yeah, amazing. She and Amber Merritt finishing with exactly the same number of points per game, 36.4, I believe it was, 34.6 points per game, which is astonishing.
Fantastic. I think that's an amazing sign for the league that you've got players who are scoring that well against fantastic players on the defensive side as well. I think it was a really, really good showing.
And probably significant that Munro Cook's been kept, she did score the first 7 points for the Blues, but been kept fairly quiet subsequently. As Isabel Martin drives middle, finds some contact, and she will head to the free throw line.
Isabel Martin just struggling with those layups a little bit. I think she's not quite finding her line, and obviously having quite tall pressure next to her, just getting a little bit in her head.
So from a classification point of view, Isabel is a 1-point player. You mentioned before 14 points allowed on the floor at any one time, and different categorisations have different roles within the team. And yeah, as you say, for Isabel, quite often there's a very long arm in front of her shooting motion, especially that second free throw miss. And
she's certainly not the scoring opportunity that the Comets are looking to score through. But the fact that she is getting scoring opportunities is a really, really important thing and a really valuable thing for this Comets side if she can start landing a few of those.
As we see Tisha Shadwell on the floor in number 14 for the Blues. Misses that reasonably makeable shot in the middle of the key. Maddie Kelton, her shot is intimidated extremely. Offensive rebound, but the ball's back to Munro Cook. As Laura DeVoley tries to stop her in transition, manages to get her chair legally in the way. Kylie Gauchi, her shot's off, but the offensive rebound and putback is good.
I think the Blues realising that the size of Georgia Monroe Cook being very valuable against this team and bringing out Tisha Shadwell as well, just to put a little bit more height and a bit more pressure in that key.
And Shadwell gets the steal there, finds Monroe Cook. The Blues are back in front. Del Tosso under extreme pressure in the backcourt. Gets it to Divoli. Divoli's attempted pass to Martin is deflected away.
I think that's actually a good thing for the Comets there. Maybe that was tapped out. Maybe their press breaker not being quite in function, but it actually working out for them.
Del Tosso finds Divoli inside. She does what she's been doing most of this contest, calmly converts. Monroe Cook, cut off by King. The layup by Shadwell's off, and Del Tosso's away and rolling. King with the screen there. Kelton pulls the ball back. Del Tosso rolls in to pick up the loose ball. Divoli's shot's off, but it's another offensive rebound. Del Tosso does a 360 and then some. Back to Kelton, back to Del Tosso. Shot clock running down in the background. Del Tosso shots long. Isabel Martin, offensive rebound. Fantastic effort at that height. Just probing into the gaps.
Laura Divoli and Leanne Del Tosso being the second and third highest rebounders in this women's league, and I think that's going to be really important against this Blues side, kind of shutting down those fast runs, not letting them get anything, and also not letting them, on the defensive side, not letting the Blues get second chance points.
As we see some substitutions. Carter Gauci coming out significantly, as you mentioned, some foul trouble there, trying to protect her. Isabel Martin, catch and shoot all in one motion to beat the defensive pressure, and that one's good. She really gets a lot of reverse rotation on those shots. The ball's fizzing like a top. Monroe Cook down in the post, a little too tall, but can't get it to go. Del Tosso the rebound. Divoli streaking ahead of her. Del Tosso to King. Can't get the layup to go. It's a beautifully constructed transition. Monroe Cook. Back to Matheson. That shot's off. Tori Simpson with the steal. Monroe Cook drives middle. Cut off. Balances herself and ties the scores.
I think that's what the Blues need. They need their forward of Georgia Monroe Cook to start hitting those shots and get a little bit of confidence back.
Another steal from Matheson. She finds Shadwell, who makes the layup. The unrelenting pressure continues. Del Tosso to Kelton, fumbles that one. Divoli swoops in to pick it up. Del Tosso changes direction, cut off again. Uses the Martin screen. Shot on the move. King with the offensive rebound. Desperately looks for somebody, but it's a turnover. And Georgia Monroe Cook is off. Cut off by Del Tosso. Divoli streaking back to help. Isabel Martin. She won't be able to block that shot. As the Sydney Blues get their nose in front, and head coach of the Queensland Comets, Nick Such, determines it's time for a timeout.
I think a good time to take a little break, look at what they did to get ahead and kind of bring that back in. Obviously, they'd be pretty confident at this point. I think they know that they could beat this Blues side, and that's a good thing for them.
Sydney Blues head coach Troy Sachs is always a fantastic watch in the timeouts. He really wears his heart on his sleeve. Very demonstrative.
And definitely a champion of the game in his own right.
Absolutely.
A lot of experience on his side.
Wonderful thing to have him involved, a veteran of so many Paralympics. Ultimately, as you said, probably a sensible timeout by Queensland. Just that backcourt pressure, and we saw consecutive turnovers turned into layups, which has resulted in the 4-point lead. And really, it appears the game almost hinges solely on Queensland's ability to diffuse that backcourt pressure and create opportunities.
Yeah, I think they've. We saw this in the first quarter. As soon as they can get it over that half, they get into really, really clear scoring opportunities, then they will hit those shots. Laura Devoli with eight points, and the same for Leanne Del Pozo. So I think if they can manage to break that press again, obviously we've seen them do it. I think everything hinges around that until the Blues decide that the press isn't worth it anymore.
Right, Queensland get us underway again. Del Tosso to Kelton, back to Del Tosso. She manages to beat the double team. Kick ahead. Unfortunately, Sarah King, that pass a little low. Deflected off her chair. And another turnover. Tori Simpson to inbound to Georgia Munro Cook. She
almost considered the three.
Pivots back and forth. Fantastic pass inside. Shelley Matheson just unable to get that one to go. Del Tosso getting a little close to the sideline, but Helen Rosenberg, our crew chief, has found a foul there.
I think almost a smart foul just to reset the defense for this Blues side, just get back into their comfort zone.
It's just the third team foul this quarter. And there we see the fourth team foul this quarter called in the background, which means every subsequent foul now by the Sydney Blues will see the Queensland Comets roll to the free throw line.
And that could start getting a little bit of the better of them, getting all those fouls. Obviously, we know Kylie Gauchi already in a little bit of foul trouble.
Just Cronje back on the floor for Sydney in number 5. Scavoli inbounds, Del Tosso. She's naturally attracting plenty of attention. Looks for the two-handed pass. Ball back to Devoli. Shot clock running down, in fact, ran down. Just the Comets a little bit of inexperience there, not realising the reset to 14 after the foul.
And the Blues doing well to know that they can shut them down for 14 seconds. They can keep this pressure down.
Comets in the navy blue uniforms, the Queensland Comets.
Comets keeping this 5 on, and that might become a little bit difficult for them heading into the second half. They might show a little bit of signs of fatigue. Obviously, we know they are a younger squad, so a lot of energy behind them. But still, it's a hard ask to put players on the floor and keep them on the floor for that amount of time.
Of course, Sporting Wheelies, fantastic major sponsors of the Comets. As Georgia Munro Cook drives baseline for the Sydney Blues. Shot incredibly, has a look in and rolls out. Maddie Kelton kicks it ahead to Devoli. Laura Devoli. She's cut off. Wheels around. Looks at a floating pass across the key. Finds Leanne Del Tosso. Her shot rolls tantalisingly off as well. And
almost
the Blues.
Munro Cook's shot.
The Blues are off and running. It's Munro Cook again, driving baseline, wheels around very effortlessly. And converts the shot to push the Blues lead out to 6. Comets transition. Maddie Kelton gets on the scoreboard. Beautiful pass from Isabel Martin with the assist.
And fantastic to see from one of the less experienced players on this comment side to be in the perfect position, call for that pass and get the shot in.
Cronje lines up her shot. That's off. Laura Devoli the rebound. Tries to drive baselines, cut off. Wheels back around again. Uses the screen, converts the two calmly. Georgia Munro Cook screams out some instructions as she brings the ball back up. Comets in quite a compressed defensive alignment. Heavy focus on Munro Cook. She makes it look easy from about 18 feet.
Even with that immense pressure coming in from the Comets, knowing that she's got quite the long range on her.
Del Tosso trying to beat the pressure, gets a screen from King. Unfortunately, she has put a wheel on the sideline and turned it over.
It can be very difficult in that position, even just a little wiggle of the hips and your wheels might just tip out the slightest little bit.
As we tick up towards halftime, just a couple of minutes remaining. It's the Sydney Blues 28, the Queensland Comets 24. Semi-final, the Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League, coming to you from Shell Harbour City Stadium. As Georgia Munro Cook continues her scoring dominance, finds two. The pass to Maddie Kelton's a little astray. A bullet-like pass into Georgia Munro Cook. She lines up another one. The radar's working now.
Munro Cook with 22 points at this point. Looking to own that top scorer in the league.
Del Tosso kicks ahead to King. Deflection. Might have touched two hands there, but the official right on the spot determines the ball to stay with Queensland. Del Tosso to inbound. Finds King. Del Tosso gets herself down to the block and trying to reel that pass in. She's fouled, which is a pretty good result for Queensland. She'll go to the free throw line.
I think this could become valuable, all of these fouls coming out on the Blues side, and the Comets being very careful not to get many fouls in here at all.
Yeah, Queensland yet to commit a foul. Blues head coach Troy Sachs looking wryly from the scoreboard back to the officials. I think trying to tactfully make that point. But as we know, in a small sample size such as a half of basketball, there can be great disparities between numbers of fouls called dependent on circumstance. Leanne Del Tosso makes the second of those two free throws to cut the margin to 7. So we're inside the last minute. Georgia Munro Cook uses the screen, drives middle, finishes.
And that's a fantastic screen. That's exactly what you want from your low point players.
Maddie Kelton in the backcourt. Georgia Munro Cook steals that one away. Expertly finds Jess Cronje, who makes the layup. Pressure really mounting now for Queensland. Devoli comes back to help out. Del Tosso looks ahead. Munro Cook appears in the passing lane with the steal. Overhead pass. Shadwell back to Munro Cook. Layups off. Ball exasperatingly falls off the hands of Leanne Del Tosso. It'll be a Sydney ball.
Sorry. Maybe thinking there was a little bit of contact there.
Just 7 seconds left. The Blues will be looking for something on the buzzer. Munro Cook, shot fake, wheels back. Clock ticks down. Her radar's on. And that is half-time. And almost in the blink of an eye, Campbell, we've seen a 20-all scoreline turned into a 38-25 to the Sydney Blues.
Yeah, that backcourt pressure, as we talked about before, whether the Comets can break that backcourt pressure, and that's really getting the best of them. The Blues getting a few turnovers there pretty quickly and scoring off of those.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting half-time discussion for the Queensland group. They certainly had the recipe right for the first 15 minutes of that first half. Just the last few minutes, the pressure's starting to bite, and turnovers, layups, and it doesn't help when Georgia Munro-Cook is on the other team and starts to heat up.
And shooting fantastically at this point. I mean, she's quite the formidable force when she's on.
All right, we will be back shortly with the second half of this semi-final. Yeah, it's a good game too. Good morning and welcome back for the second half of this semi-final in the Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League, brought to you by Wheelchair Basketball Australia and the Beluga Foundation. My name's Brendan Parnell, joined again by Campbell Fraser. And Campbell, we saw an engrossing contest. The two teams unable to be split, the Sydney Blues and the Queensland Comets for the first 15 minutes, but then Georgia Munro Cook and some backcourt pressure turned things around.
Yeah, I think that backcourt pressure is so strong, and just getting a few of those wayward passes through the Comets, and knowing that there's a little bit less experience on the Comets side, kind of forcing those passes into hands that aren't necessarily as comfortable with all of that pressure. But I think they can handle it. I think they've got a chance to bring this back. We saw them catch up from what was already a Blues lead at the very start. So I'm very excited to see how this final goes.
Yeah, the score at the moment, the Sydney Blues 38, the Queensland Comets 25. As the clock ticks down and the coaches, Nick Such for Queensland and Troy Sachs for Sydney, give their final instructions. This is the one of two semi-finals being conducted today. Perth and the Sydney Uni Flames are playing on another court here at Shellharbour City Stadium, with the winner of that game moving straight to tomorrow's grand final. The loser of that game will play the winner of this game later on this evening. Those two games to be broadcast on KO Freebies, and you can find all the details of that on the Wheelchair Basketball Australia website or any of their social media platforms. It's Wheelchair Basketball Australia on Facebook, at Wheelchair Basketball Australia on Instagram, Twitter or X is at Wheelchair Hoops, and the website itself is wba.net.au. And obviously, if you're watching or hearing this, you're watching on the YouTube channel. As we're underway for the second half of this 3-4 semi-final. Sydney Blues with the ball in the grey uniforms with the light blue numbers. And the Queensland Comets on defence in the navy blue. Ball goes inside. Tisha Shadwell, a little too big there.
Yeah, knowing that there's no pressure on her at that point, it's just make that clean shot.
The backcourt pressure that we've seen throughout the contest is there. Pass goes astray for Leanne Del Tosso. 8 seconds in the backcourt will be an issue here. And in fact, the referee affirms that is the case.
And that's the first 8-second violation that we've had, but obviously we've had turnovers already committed by the Comets from this immense pressure.
The Blues to inbound. Carly Gauci gets us underway. Ball deflected by Laura Devoli for Queensland. It will stay with Sydney. 12 on the shot clock. Georgia Munro Cook gets the inbound pass, looks at three, it almost goes. Rebound spills across to Laura Devoli, to Del Tosso. Isabel Martin running the left lane. She's across to Sarah King. Her shot's blocked. Tisha Shadwell. Laura Devoli appears. Her layup does everything but go down. Isabel Martin with the steal. Her pass is deflected multiple times. Last coming off Georgia Munro Cook. The ball to be inbounded from the baseline by Queensland. Just a little over a minute gone, the third quarter. Leanne Del Tosso looks at that shot, balances herself and makes it to cut the margin to 13. Carly Gauci Across to Georgia Munro Cook. Maddie Kelton cuts her off on the baseline. Leanne Del Tosso to assist. Munro Cook wheels around again. Metronomic shot.
Again, we've seen that range. We know she can shoot out there. They need to be jumping those shots a little bit earlier.
Sydney Blues 42. Queensland Comets 27. Laura Devoli rips that one up with one hand, but the official determines that it was, in fact, an 8-second violation.
Just not getting that second big wheel across the line in time. Getting very close, actually.
As we see a couple of chairs locked up. Not an unusual situation, Campbell.
It's a very annoying situation, especially if you're a player that's kind of been getting into the heat of the game and then you have to stop and slow down. But it certainly happens, and it's usually an easy fix. This one looking a little bit tighter.
So for the wheels of these fantastic chairs are at an angle, as you can see on the coverage. And a little bit of help here from Queensland coach Nick Such out on the floor. They've called for another wheel. Laura Devoli will be able to clip that on. Remarkable technology.
And that's why we carry a spare. That's exactly the situation that you don't want to get into when you don't have a spare wheel.
We're underway. Kylie Gauchi with the ball for Sydney. Uses the Latu screen. Georgia Munro Cook runs a fantastic cut from the weak side. Kylie Gauchi with the laser-like pass. That's two more. And Del Tosso navigating traffic in the backcourts, cut off by Shadwell. Kicks ahead to Isabel Martin. She scans around trying to find the ball. It just refused to come into her field of vision. She's forced to foul.
It's a difficult situation when you only have so much range of motion. Trying to find where the ball is coming to you know it's coming to you somewhere, but communication not quite telling her exactly where it was.
Kylie Gauchi now into the front court. The Blues holding a comfortable 17-point lead now. Kylie drives. Layups off. Leanne Del Tosso with the rebound for Queensland. Wheels around. Kylie Gauchi swipes at the ball unsuccessfully. Maddie Kelton, hand off to Isabel Martin. Drives baseline, kicks back to Del Tosso. But Georgia Munro Cook got her chair there in time, squared it up, and an offensive foul.
And Isabel Martin a little bit too focused on getting that pass to the right player, and just flying straight into the side of Georgia Munro Cook. So it's a difficult thing to slow down and get that pass off at the same time.
Shelley Matheson in 21 is back on the floor for Sydney. Marianne Latu with the ball at the moment. A couple of cutters run across the front of her, one of which is Georgia Munro Cook. She wheels back to the ball. Maddie Kelton trying to cut her off on the baseline. Leanne Del Tosso with the reach from the side. The official determines there was contact on the shooting arm. And Del Tosso just asking for some clarification there. Receives same.
Thinking that most of that contact was on the shooting hand, not necessarily the arm, but we know players in this league won't argue with the referees too much. They have a lot of trust in their referees.
Georgia Munro Cook makes one of two there to push the score out to Sydney 45, Queensland 27. A little over 3 minutes gone, third quarter. This semi-final, the Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League. Coming to you from Shell Harbour City Stadium. It's a packed weekend, semi-finals, preliminary finals tonight, and the gold and bronze medal games tomorrow. All covered either on YouTube or KO Freebies. And Del Tosso weaving a little bit of magic in the back court, in the front court to get around. The officials have detected another foul. Marianne Latu, the transgressor. Jess Cronje comes onto the floor for Sydney. Noticeable, as you said before, Campbell, that Queensland have yet to make a substitution in this game.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that pressure get a little bit ahead of them, especially for two players who are a little bit less experienced than the others. But hopefully we can get a little bit of play through their bench and give these players a little bit of a rest.
Del Tosso posts up. Martin wheels away. Had been screening. Shot clock running down. And expires. Just unable to figure out how they were going to get it into that little post-up series there. Munro Cook is away. Davoli meets her. Back to Gauci. She uses the screen. A unique interior pass, almost flipped it back over her head. Georgia Munro Cook catches and scores again.
Adding to her tally, kind of hoping to bring up that average for the season.
Del Tosso to Martin. Ball spills away from King. It's another turnover. Margin sits at 20 at the moment. Sydney 47. Queensland 27. It's all happened so quickly. As we do see some substitutions for Queensland. Wendy Passfield in 5 and Alison Mosley in 7 onto the floor.
I think this is very exciting for the Comets to have a little bit of a rest and get their other players come through. And even just get the experience of playing in a National League final. I think that's a fantastic thing for these less experienced players.
One of the key aims of wheelchair basketball in reinstituting this full home and away season of the National League. As Wendy Passfield gets her first statistic, and unfortunately it's a foul, a shooting foul. Just caught on the wrong side there. Tori Simpson getting a little off balance that second free throw. Comes up a little short.
Tori Simpson being one of the lower point players, and that's it's a very difficult thing to put them in a free throw position. That's a pretty hard shot to make from such a low sitting chair.
Just the power generation is...
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why we see, as you said before, Isabel Martin's shooting style being a little bit unconventional, getting a lot of backspin, but that's the way that you get that power through.
That inbound pass is deflected. It'll stay with Queensland. Davoli to inbound. Passfield makes a cut. Receives the pass. Back to Davoli. On to Mosley. She's cut off. Back to Davoli. Uses the Martin screen. Finds Mosley, cutting middle. Shot clock running down. Almost good. With the rebounded Georgia Munro Cook. Matheson kicks ahead. Beautiful pass to Cronje. Her layup's a little short. King comes again. Another shot over the top from Tori Simpson, but the ball will stay with Sydney.
And I think this is where the Comets could find to catch up a little bit of that lead we saw in the first half, when the Blues start losing a little bit of their shots, start losing their cool a little bit. That's when the Comets kind of kicked in.
Munro Cook's shot is short. King the rebound. Draw some contact in the backcourt from Tori Simpson. Just the first team foul this quarter. For the second, I beg your pardon. The Comets sitting on 14 fouls, in trouble the next time they commit a foul. Laura DeVoli drives down the right wing. Isabel Martin screens, rolls, can't quite get it to go. Alison Mosley with the reverse, sits on the rim, will not fall. Georgia Munro Cooks off and racing. Draws thread, beautiful block there from Alison Mosley. Block and the rebound. She's now off on transition. Finds DeVoli. She's cut off by Cronje and Matheson. A couple of screens in front of her. Drives back across to her left, scanning the floor. Shot clock getting way down. DeVoli's shot's a little long. Hasfield the rebound. Shot fake. Back to King. Has to lean back awkwardly in her chair. The shot hits the support structure on the backboard and will turn over to Sydney. It's Kylie Gauci back on the floor for Sydney in 11. Sydney with a commanding 20-point lead at this stage, 47-27. Just a little over 3.5 minutes remaining, third quarter of this Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League semi-final. The winner moving through to a preliminary final tonight as we see an offensive foul. Plenty of clanging of chairs there.
Shelley Matheson taking that one and not even questioning it for a second, just moving on. I think these players know when they've committed a foul and they're pretty happy to just continue.
Laura DeVoli races towards the ball. Her pass is cut off by Matheson. Deflection and a foul. Laura DeVoli with that foul. It's her second. But unfortunately, it's the Queensland Blues' fifth team foul this quarter, which will result in 2 free throws, each worth 1 point.
And this is not the position that the Comets want to be in if they're looking to break this lead and kind of catch up a little bit. They don't want to be in foul trouble here.
Yeah, scoring's really been an issue for them since about the midway point of the second quarter.
And the Blues showing that their shooting will not be a problem. Their scoring won't be an issue.
Shelley Matheson makes the first, banks in the second. Gives a big grin. Not sure if she planned that or if she's just happy that it happened.
Probably a bit of both.
As DeVoli streaks away, she's cut off. Tanny Igler-Best there on the floor, the defence. But it's Alison Mosley with the offensive rebound and the putback to open her scoring account and drag the margin back to 20. Kylie Gauci with the ball for Sydney now. Georgia Munro Cook wheels a cut through the middle, as does Shelley Matheson. The shot comes up a little short. Scramble for possession. Caitlin Gunn was in there. And a jump ball has been assessed. But we'll see a timeout to Queensland. So, Campbell, what sort of things might Queensland head coach Nick Such be looking at now?
I think he's looking at those second chance points. The Comets coming away with significantly more rebounds than the side of the Blues, and I think those points become infinitely valuable when you're down at this point, knowing that the Blues are probably only going to get one shot up, and maybe the Comets are getting 2 or 3 and getting their rebounds continuously, so they've got to be able to put those points away.
It was certainly an arm wrestle for 15 minutes, as we noted before. But Sydney have really managed to put the clamps on both the Comets scoring and on their ability to get the ball out of the backcourt safely.
I think it is just that little bit of pressure. They are an intimidating side on the Blues. They have a lot of veterancy behind them, and maybe that's just getting a little bit the better of them. I think we saw the Comets have a lot more spring behind them in that first quarter, and it's just kind of fallen off a little bit in this third quarter.
Alison Mosley to get us underway. 2 minutes and 40 seconds remaining, third quarter. It's the Sydney Blues 49, Queensland Comets 29. In this semi-final of the Women's National Wheelchair Basketball League, brought to you by Wheelchair Basketball Australia and the Beluga Foundation. Trisha Shadwell with that defensive rebound. And unfortunately, that's another foul for Queensland. And Shelley Matheson will make her way back to the free throw line. Shelley with a deep breath. Plenty of range in that shot, just a little off to the right. So she can make the adjustment. Bobbles around. Rebound to King. Mosley finds Davoli in the middle of the floor. Matheson comes, swipes at the ball. You can see and hear the contact of the chairs there. Sarah King appears open under the hoop. Can't get the shot to go. Matheson the rebound, ball outlet. Alison Mosley just not quite there in time. Her chair collides with Marianne Lartus and a foul is called.
That's a very difficult position to be in. She was almost in perfect position if she'd just been able to turn a little bit more and collect that charge, but facing up and getting the foot plate straight into the player coming in, a foot plate will always be considered a defensive foul.
Second shot is good from Marianne Lartu. Margin out to 21. Alison Mosley in the backcourt for Queensland. It's ahead, Sarah King. Shelley Matheson looks around despairingly, but then concedes that she has fouled.
Nodding her head and just kind of accepting that one. She's a very experienced player, the most experienced player that the Gliders have ever seen.
Wendy Passfield with that. Catches that inbound pass. Her pass to Sarah King's a little long. And Shelley Matheson, she that we just mentioned, is off on transition. Manages to get a pass to the middle. It's picked off. Laura Davoli looking to see if she can go coast to coast, but Shelley Matheson with great chair speed. And unfortunately for Isabel Martin there, as she wheeled around trying to set a screen, that screen has been assessed as a moving screen.
She just collected Shelley Matheson as she's turning around there.
Ball's inbounded. Tisha Shadwell kicks it back to Marianne Lartu, and the Blues will set something up. Tisha Shadwell cut off by Wendy Passfield. Looks at the shot. Long rebound back to Passfield. Mosley looking for a pass is fouled, and that will be the 5th team foul this quarter for Sydney. Alison Mosley doesn't realise it yet, but she'll head to the line.
Again, the Blues just getting into a bit of foul trouble. I mean, we know that the Comets are, but this is the first time that they have been versus The Blues collecting quite a few in every quarter so far.
Now, surely Laura Davoli wasn't trying to sneak in there and claim that she was fouled.
I think you'd be hoping she was if you were in her position, but
Alison Mosley with a wry smile and pointing to herself, and the officials agreed. That first one rolls around and will not go in. Second one, straight and true. Margin back to 20.
And a few of the comments, you'll be very happy with one of those getting in, knowing that you do have another shooting opportunity.
Sydney Blues 50, Queensland Comets 30. Last minute of the third quarter, this semi-final, Marianne Latu knocks down a mid-range shot.
And that's a fantastic shot, that long bank.
Davoli's cut off in the backcourt. Mosley, her pass is a little long. Davoli from nowhere appears, scoops the ball up and forces Tisha Shadwell, who is in there trying to grab hold of it, to foul. And now Laura Davoli will go to the free throw line. She'll realise in a minute. Yeah, she smiles wryly as she was already down, ready to take up her position in the free throw lane.
And I think that's a good thing that you want to see from a player, not thinking too much of themselves and being ready to move on to the next thing.
Her first shot's away. She gets a hand slap from a couple of teammates. Second one's a little long. Tisha Shadwell with the aggressive rebound there, snatching it away. She's off on transition. Wendy Passfield comes with what looked like a block, nothing called there. Ball skips across to Marianne Latu and she makes the layup. And that's the end of the third quarter. A quarter where the Sydney Blues have managed to cement their advantage and skip away to a 24-point lead, Campbell, 54-30, with just one quarter remaining.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a difficult point for the Comets to come back from. I think it's certainly doable. We saw if they can bring back the power that they had in that first quarter, but the veterancy and the strength of this side on the Blues really getting ahead of them, and the power of Georgia Monroe-Cook with her scoring, and also knowing that she does have several other players that she can rely on to pass through, as we saw the Comets try and defend her pretty strongly, and then just happy to pass it off and get scoring opportunities elsewhere.
And so the Sydney Blues in a perfect position, should they continue to dominate here, to move through and advance to tonight's women's preliminary final. That'll be seen, or can be seen, from 5 p.m. here from Shell Harbour City Stadium. That'll be broadcast on KO Freebies. Anybody wanting to register, you're able to do so for that service free of charge. All the details are available on the Wheelchair Basketball Australia website and or any of their social media services on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X as it's known, or YouTube. You'll be able to find all the details there. And they would play the loser of the other women's semi-final, which is going on at the moment. In the background, you might be able to hear some of the noise. And that's quite a cliffhanger between the Sydney Uni Flames and the Perth Wheelcats.
Just looking over, it's 8 points the difference at that, and going into this last quarter. So could be a very interesting game, no matter who wins our game here.
And that'll be 5 p.m. again tonight, the women's preliminary final on this finals weekend here from Shell Harbour City Stadium. Wheelchair Basketball Australia and the Beluga Foundation bringing you a fantastic action. 10 games this weekend in the men's and women's wheelchair leagues for the first time since 2022. We've had a full home and away season. Wheelchair Basketball Australia taking over agency of the sport, and a fantastic thing it's been. Smiles all round from our officials and players as we're underway in the last quarter. Georgia Monroe-Cook, the leading scorer for the game and for the league for the season, uses a screen, looks at a shot, and on cue comes up with an air ball. Very unusual.
And we're seeing the Comets actually return to that starting five, the five that have proved the strongest.
Laura Davoli with the ball in the backcourt. Kicks ahead to Sarah King. Leanne Del Tosso back on the floor, who was so effective. Beautiful bounce pass to Maddie Kelton. Her layup misses, but she was fouled in the act of shooting and will head to the free throw line. Just a beautiful transition there, something that we saw regularly in the first quarter and the first half of the second quarter.
Yeah, and I think that's the strength of this five. They know how to do that transition very effectively. They've learned how to break that press, and I think that's going to be the key to any success here if they can claw back this victory.
And Maddie Kelton's first free throw's a little short. Second one finds the front of the rim. Laura Davoli skates in for the rebound. Can't get the layup to go. Georgia Munro-Cook is off and rolling for the Blues. Isabel Martin scrambles down to the baseline to try and cut her off. Munro-Cook's shot is a little long. Davoli the rebound to King to Del Tosso. It's the Queensland Comets streak down the floor. Del Tosso cut off. Finds Davoli. His shot's a little short. Isabel Martin in amongst the trees there. Gets the rebound. Back to Del Tosso. Shot clock still moving. It's on 10. Kelton cuts middle. Her shot just refuses to go. Georgia Munro-Cook, the defensive rebound. Cut off by Sarah King. And now Isabel Martin comes to defend her. Ball across to Cronje. Tisha Shadwell in the middle of the key with a high arcing shot there.
Again, the focus being a little bit too much on Georgia Munro-Cook and allowing other scoring opportunities to come through.
There's a turnover in the backcourt. Jess Cronje with the steal. Tori Simpson couldn't make that go, but the ball spills back to Munro-Cook. Munro-Cook to Cronje. Back to Simpson. It won't go. Kelton the rebound to Del Tosso. She looks down the floor, finds Laura Davoli. She uses the interference from Sarah King, who's trying to make a cut. Kelton goes middle. Davoli squares up. Makes the long two with a smooth stroke.
I think that's exactly what the Comets need. They need that score to come through, get a bit more energy behind them, get a bit more confidence just to finish out this game.
Tisha Shadwell, an imposing presence inside. Catches on the move, finishes with her left hand. But should the Comets not manage to pull back this large deficit at the moment, they will certainly have another game tomorrow, the bronze medal game, having earned their way into the finals. There's another turnover in the backcourt. Munro-Cook weaving. Kelton comes to defend her. Munro-Cook shots off. Shadwell's there. Makes the put back. The Blues out to 60-32, their advantage over the Queensland Comets at the moment. A little under 7 minutes remaining in the fourth quarter. Georgia Munro-Cook sheepishly puts her hand up to indicate that she will own that foul in the backcourt.
Again, the fouls for the Blues coming through, getting a little bit dangerous. They've got quite a few players on 3 fouls at this point. It's a dangerous position to be in.
As we see some substitutions for the Blues. Jess Pello on in 12 as the Comets push the ball ahead. Isabel Martin. Back to Leanne Del Tosso. She's cut off. Jess Pello manages to get a hand on that one and deflected out of bounds. 8 seconds on the 24-second shot clock remaining for Queensland to manufacture a shot. Ball's inbounded to Del Tosso. Nice rotation on that shot, just a little short. Pello's off. Georgia Munro-Cook speeding her way down the floor, makes a layup. King kicks ahead to Del Tosso. She's got single coverage, finds Davoli. Davoli's shot, just not enough oomph on that. Sits on the rim for a second or two, falls off.
I think maybe all this time on court getting a little bit to Laura Davoli here.
Georgia Munro Cook can't get that one to go. Davoli. Maddie Kelton shots off, as you might have heard in the background. The Sydney Uni Flames having won the other women's semi-final, moving straight through to tomorrow's grand final. The Perth Wheelcats left to play the winner of this game in the 5 p.m. preliminary final. And I think for the first time tonight, Lucinda Bluetti in for Sydney, number 4. Sydney holding a comfortable 30-point advantage, 62-32. 5 minutes remaining in this semi-final.
And if you're on the side of the Blues, this is a good time to get those players a little bit more time on court, get a little bit of experience in a finals experience.
Maddie Kelton wheels around, looking increasingly confident. Back to Bluetti. She tries the rollback or fade away. It's a little long. Kylie Gauci off to Georgia Munro Cook. Almost the entire Queensland team scrambles to try and cut off her cut. Despello back to Gauci. Generates some nice force. Offensive rebound, Lucinda Bluetti. She makes the putback. Sarah King now, the pressure still apparent in the backcourt. Fantastic underhand layup.
Just looking a little too simple there.
Laura Davoli with that one. Some great chair speed and the ability to go underhand to dampen the shot and enable it to sit softly off the backboard. Plenty of communication, screen and roll action. Davoli gets a hand in there. Deters that shot. Del Tosso stopped in the backcourt. Looks around. Nice bounce pass through to Maddie Kelton. She's looking anxiously around. Finds Laura Davoli. She splits between chairs. Draws some contact. Almost up on one wheel there for a second.
It's a difficult position to shoot from, but it was a fantastic screen in by Isabel Martin. Those things that don't get represented on the stats, but are very important to get into that scoring position.
Just the narrowest of gaps to get her chair through there.
She's a very agile player. If she sees that gap, she will go through it. She will fight for it.
Laura Davoli with a chance to add to her team leading total. First one is off. She struggled a little bit from the free throw line, unusually tonight. Second one, of course, I've said that, is a swish.
She's got something to prove now.
Kylie Gauci, as we tick inside 4 minutes remaining, it's a comfortable 29-point lead for the Sydney Blues. Certainly wasn't that way early in this contest as Kylie Gauci makes the mid-range shot. The Comets took it right up to the Blues. Had the scores locked up to 24 all, and then a surging run from the Blues took them away. As Laura Davoli draws some more contact, gets the shot away, it sits on the rim, falls in. She will go to the free throw line with an opportunity for the one bonus point.
It'll be interesting to see how the Blues handle all of these fouls in other games that they play over this weekend, seeing if other teams might be able to capitalise on that contact a little bit more, and that might be quite threatening for them.
Yeah, possibly the extensive backcourt pressure may be something they may or may not go back to and against different opponents. Well, Perth looking like being their next opponent. It'll be fascinating to see what tactical adjustments are made as Jess Cronje's cut off in the backcourt. Kicks the ball ahead. Caitlin Gunn manages to get that and recycle it. Ball spills away inside, but a foul has been identified. Just the first foul in this last quarter for the Comets. Stavoli deflects that inbound pass. Caitlin Gunn is almost tipped out of her chair. The ball's now wedged under her foot plate. Laura Davoli to the rescue.
So it's a very, very annoying thing for all players when the chair traps the ball, and it can be very difficult for the referees to consider who had control of the ball there.
Yeah, well, I think our officials have had a little conference there, and they've determined the ball will actually go back to Queensland. The crew chief, Helen Rosenberg, initiating that discussion as she calls a foul in the backcourt.
And over this weekend, the teams may have to adapt to these referees calling pretty aggressive, or rather, calling any contact as a foul and being aware of that.
I know we talked to the head of the referees for Wheelchair Basketball Australia, Phil Haynes, last night, and he was at pains to explain that this weekend is as important for the officials as it is for the players in terms of development of some younger officials, the blending with some of the more experienced officials, and providing a base of support for the league in future years.
And that has been a huge thing historically through Australia, have produced quite a few international wheelchair basketball referees, and it's good to see that kind of coming back and being reinvigorated.
Shot clock running down there, and Laura Davoli, she manages to get a shot away. Wendy Passfield almost had hold of the rebound, but the ball will stay with the Comets. Shot clock reset to 14 seconds. Sarah King with the inbound. Ball skips across to Laura Davoli. Crystal DeMaid on the floor gets hold of that one. Her shot hotly contested and a little off. Davoli with the rebound, shot clock expiring. Unfortunately, that shot catches the side of the backboard. Jess Cronje has to stretch forward for that one. Shelley Matheson is held up. And a beautiful layup. Tori Simpson there catching on the move. As we see a little bit of checking. More than a little bit of checking in the backcourt. Referee Rosenberg suggests that everybody should calm down a fraction. Isabel Martin just gauging where this pass might go. It goes to DeMaid. She takes a dribble. Back to Martin. Spills to King. She tries to kick to Davoli. Shelley Matheson lurched forward, almost coming out of her chair there as she was stopped in her tracks.
I think as soon as that contact came through, she was looking up, seeing if a foul would be called. Thinking there was quite a lot of contact there.
Matheson inbounds to Cronje, gets it back. Just 90 seconds remaining. Beautiful cut through the middle from Lucinda Bwedi. Her shot's off. Caitlin Gunn deflects the rebound back out to Matheson. Back to Bwedi. She's fouled in the act of shooting. The ball almost goes in, but she'll head to the free throw line.
That's fantastic range there on that long shot.
She's certainly come out extremely aggressively in this. We've only seen her in this last quarter. Makes the first one go with a style all of her own. as you mentioned before, Campbell, but just finding a way to generate power. A lovely rotation on the ball. She makes them both.
It's a fascinating shooting style, kind of incorporating that wind-up, but also getting that form in right at the end.
Margin out to 33. It's the Sydney Blues 70, the Queensland Comets 37. Laura Devoli finds plenty of traffic as she crosses halfway, moves into the front court. Looks at the bank shot. Isabel Martin scrambles in there and tries to deflect it away, does so. The ball will stay with Sydney, who will now have their, in 58 seconds time, they'll have their focus fixed on this afternoon's preliminary final. 5 p.m. they will take on the Perth Wheelcats. As they add another 2 to their score. Devoli with the ball now. Just can't keep it in bound. As you say, it's been a full 40 minutes for Devoli here tonight. This morning, I should say. And tough ask physically and concentration-wise.
Especially for such a young player, that I think it's a difficult thing to be on court and have so much pressure on you. But she's definitely standing up to the task.
As Tori Simpson cuts baseline, catches and makes her own layup. Just second last possession of the game. Sarah King's cut off at halfway, kicks it ahead. Isabel Martin reels it in from back over her head. Crystal DeMaid comes to set a screen. Kicks across to Devoli. She wheels around back to her right hand. Looks at a 3, and in fact she's been fouled in the act of shooting that 3-point shot. She will head to the free throw line for 3 attempts.
I think that's obviously it won't matter too much now, but that's an unnecessary foul to commit on a 3 that really pretty much had no chance of going anywhere.
First one's good from Laura Devoli, taking the Queensland score up to 38. Just 5 seconds left. Likely we'll see a dribble out after this. Second one's no good. Shelley Matheson was off a little early there, forgetting it was 3. Devoli makes 2 of 3. Ball's inbounded. And the Blues all smiles. Jess Cronje does wake up a last minute 3, which is off. It's smiles all round, but it's the Sydney Blues who will advance to tonight's preliminary final. Their score 74-39 over a gallant Queensland Comets team that really took it up to them for 15 minutes, and then really the pressure in the backcourt and the excellence of Georgia Munro Cook's scoring ability took it away from them.
Yeah, I think there were definitely fantastic passages of play for the Comets to analyse and really note where they went right. But again, just the strength on the Blues side, we knew that they were going to be a strong team coming into this game, and looking like a formidable force coming into these finals.
Right, so that takes us away from the 2 women's semi-finals. We'll see the preliminary final tonight live on KO Freebies at 5 p.m. It'll be the Perth Wheelcats against the Sydney Blues. But coming straight up at 11 a.m, there's a double header again in the men's league. Darwin Saltys taking on the Wollongong Rollerhawks, the 1 versus 2 matchup from the regular season. And the Perth Wheelcats taking on the debutantes in the league this year, the National Wheelchair Basketball League, the Manly Wheel Eagles. 2 fantastic contests there. They'll both be streamed on YouTube. But, Campbell, any final thoughts on what we can expect?
I think we can expect a really, really hard showing both in the men's and the women's league. I mean, this Blues side being very, very strong showing here. I think this could be a very good weekend for everyone.
All right, so plenty more wheelchair basketball action to come. We're signing off now, and you will hear from us later on today.